All right, so we've got a whole stack of reports and articles here all about Titan Company.
Yeah, they're really quite the giant in the Indian lifestyle industry, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Most people probably know them for their Tanishq jewelry,
Or their fast track watches. They're everywhere.
for sure. And from what I've seen, they're really pushing for some serious growth.
That's right. This Titan Turbo program of theirs, that seems like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to dig into that. But first, I'm really interested in their revenue growth and how they're managing their profits with those wild gold and diamond costs.
Good point. Those raw materials can be tricky to handle.
Exactly. We should also look at their expansion plans, especially for Tanishq. I've seen them popping up everywhere.
They are expanding aggressively, and on top of that, we need to see how they're adapting to the shifting demands of Indian consumers. Tastes are changing quickly these days.
You're right. It's not just about selling products anymore. It's about understanding the whole lifestyle.
Well, exactly. And Titan seems to be at the forefront of that shift. They're not just riding the wave of India's booming economy.
It seems like they're actively shaping the future of how people live their lives.
I think that's a great way to put it. And that Titan Turbo program you mentioned, that's a key part of it.
Oh, how so?
It's not just some marketing slogan. They're really overhauling every part of their business, improving the customer experience, empowering their employees, really going all in on innovation and sustainability.
Sounds like a total transformation. So it's not just about slapping a turbocharger on their profits. They're really rethinking the whole engine.
Precisely. It's about being better in every way, and it's clearly working. Even with a tough market out there, they're still reporting a 5% year-on-year revenue growth.
Wow, 5%. That's impressive, especially in this economy.
And that's not all. They've managed to hit a massive euro 51,084 crore in revenue.
That's a pretty hefty number. But what really stands out to me is their EBIT margin, 11.7%, despite all the challenges. That's impressive.
It is. It shows that they're operating efficiently and keeping a close eye on their costs, especially considering how unpredictable gold prices can be.
Yeah, it's not easy making a profit when your raw materials are fluctuating so much. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into their various businesses.
Good idea. Their annual report gives a pretty detailed breakdown of each segment.
So jewelry, watches, even saris now. Where are they seeing the most success?
Well, as you might expect, jewelry is still their crown jewel, so to speak. Tanishq is their star performer, no question, and it's easy to see why. Their designs are beautiful, their customer service is top-notch.
I've heard great things about Tanishq. And they're not afraid to expand, are they? I see new stores popping up all the time.
Exactly. They're expanding their reach across India, bringing that luxury experience to more and more people. It's a smart strategy, especially with India's middle class growing so rapidly.
More disposable income means more potential customers for Tanishq, right?
Right. And they're not just relying on traditional stores either. They're really embracing the digital world, using technology to create seamless and engaging experiences.
Oh yeah, I read about that new CRM platform they implemented and that AI-powered dealer portal they have.
That's right. They're streamlining their operations, personalizing interactions, and making everything more efficient.
It's like they're weaving high tech into their traditional business. But what about their other segments, watches, for example? The report mentions some pretty strong growth in their watches and wearables, particularly smartwatches.
Absolutely. Their Fast Track brand has become a force to be reckoned with in the Indian smartwatch market. We're talking about a whopping 56% growth in that category.
Wow, 56%, that's huge.
It is. Fast Track is actually one of the top 4 smartwatch brands in India right now. That shows you how well they're doing.
So they're catering to both the traditional watch lovers and the tech-savvy crowd. Smart move. What else are they up to?
Well, their eye care division is another area where they're really shining. They've got a network of over 900 stores across India, and they're known for their honest selling approach.
Honest selling. I like the sound of that.
It means they prioritize transparency and customer education over those pushy sales tactics you sometimes see.
Ah, so it's about building trust and actually educating customers about their eye health.
Exactly. It's about creating a positive experience that goes beyond just making a sale.
Okay, so jewelry, watches, eyewear. What else is in their portfolio?
Their fragrances and fashion accessories segment is definitely worth mentioning. They're already dominating the masstige category.
Prestige, that's a new one for me.
Think of it as affordable luxury, and they've got a pretty impressive 35–45% market share in that space.
So they're doing well, but what are they planning next? Are they content with just that slice of the market?
They have bigger ambitions. They're aiming to expand into all segments of the fragrance and accessories market. They want the whole pie.
Well, with their brand recognition and retail network, they certainly have the potential to shake things up.
I think they're well positioned to be a disruptive force in those markets.
Now, they haven't forgotten their roots either, have they? Their venture into Indian dresswear with their sari brand Tanera seems to be a nod to their heritage.
Tenera is a great example of how they're weaving tradition into their modern growth strategy.
They've got, what, 73 stores and counting?
That's right. And they're showcasing some truly exquisite saris, celebrating India's rich textile heritage.
And they're working directly with weavers, too, right, through their Weaver Shala program.
Yes, exactly. That program is fantastic. They're directly supporting the artisans, empowering them economically, and preserving those traditional weaving techniques.
It's like they're threading social impact right into their business model. A beautiful mix of commerce and culture.
I couldn't agree more. It's really inspiring to see. But let's not forget about their key strategies for growth.
Right. How are they actually fueling this Titan turbo engine? What's the secret sauce?
Well, their retail expansion is definitely a major factor. They're opening new stores left and right, particularly for Tanishq and Tanera.
And they're not just sticking to the big cities, are they? They're targeting those smaller towns, too.
Exactly. They're tapping into the rising aspirations and spending power of consumers all across India. They're seeing the potential in those smaller markets, often being the first big lifestyle brand to establish a presence there.
It's like they're planting seeds of growth everywhere. But retail expansion is just one piece of the puzzle. They're also incredibly committed to product innovation, always coming up with new and exciting offerings.
They're constantly developing new products to keep pace with those evolving consumer demands.
So it's about being where the customers are and giving them what they want, even before they know they want it.
You got it. Like with their eye care division, for example, they just launched Zeph, a line of those affordable luxury frames. They're designed and made in France.
Very chic. And what about their fragrance segment? Any exciting developments there?
They're rolling out some brand new product lines to cater to all sorts of tastes and preferences.
They're not just following the trends, they're creating them. But amidst all this growth and innovation, they're not neglecting sustainability either.
Absolutely not. Titan is really walking the talk when it comes to sustainable practices.
So what are they focusing on?
They're all about recycling. They're localizing their production to cut down on their carbon footprint, and they're very conscious about the materials and manufacturing processes they use.
I read about that paperless solution they implemented for their job tickets. Apparently, they're saving 500,000 sheets of paper each year.
That's incredible. It really shows that they're taking a holistic approach to sustainability.
It's not just about the products. It's about their entire operation.
Okay, but a company is only as good as its people. How is Titan treating its employees?
Well, they seem to really understand that happy, engaged employees are crucial to their success. They've got a strong focus on employee well-being.
What kind of initiatives are they implementing? They're investing in training programs, promoting diversity, encouraging a healthy work-life balance, and they're working to create a truly supportive work environment.
Their annual report highlighted their commitment to diversity and inclusion, which is really great to see.
Absolutely. They're actively working to build a more diverse and inclusive workplace. And they've also got initiatives like Crest, the Titan Manager's Promise.
What's that all about?
It's focused on strengthening the bond between managers and employees, making sure everyone feels psychologically safe and supported.
So it's about more than just profits. It's about building a healthy and sustainable workplace culture.
Exactly. And their commitment extends beyond their employees, too. They're really active in corporate social responsibility and community initiatives.
Tell me more about that. What are they doing in that space?
Their CSR program is very extensive. They're supporting education, skill development, Indian arts and crafts, and empowering those from marginalized communities. They're walking the walk.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is, too. They've invested a significant amount, 57.99 crore, in CSR initiatives, reaching over 6 lakh beneficiaries.
They're definitely making a positive impact.
Now, their annual report also emphasized their strong governance practices and their commitment to ethical conduct. That's really important, especially in today's world.
Absolutely. Ethical conduct is at the core of their corporate culture. They've got all the systems in place to ensure they comply with regulations and uphold the highest standards of integrity.
And their leadership seems pretty stable, too. Their managing director, C.K. Venkataraman, was reappointed. The board has expressed a lot of confidence in him, particularly in navigating these uncertain economic times.
They clearly see him as the captain to steer Titan towards continued success.
It's amazing to see how all these different pieces fit together, from their strong financial performance and diverse growth to their commitment to sustainability, ethics, and employee well-being. Titan seems to be approaching business with a really holistic mindset.
I think that's a great observation. They've successfully navigated some choppy economic waters, embraced the digital revolution, and really solidified their position as a leader in the Indian lifestyle market.
Before we move on to their financials in detail, I want to touch on something their annual report mentioned: the volatility of gold prices and the increasing competition they're facing, especially in the jewelry segment.
That's a good point. While Titan is in a strong position, they're not immune to market forces. The rising price of gold is something they have to keep a close eye on, and the jewelry market is getting more competitive all the time.
So how are they addressing those challenges?
They're adapting strategically. They're investing in consumer promotions to drive growth, especially in the jewelry sector. And they're also focusing on premiumization, particularly in their watches and wearables division.
What does that mean exactly?
It means offering higher value products that can withstand those price fluctuations.
So it's not just about riding out the storm, it's about finding opportunities within the storm.
Exactly. They're turning challenges into opportunities to innovate and strengthen their market position.
All right, that's a great overview. I'm ready to delve deeper into their financial performance, their revenue growth, profit margins, all the juicy details. Let's get into the numbers.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it. Welcome back. We've covered a lot of ground about Titan Company. Their growth across different segments is impressive. But now let's dive into the heart of the matter.
You're talking about the financials, right? Time to crunch some numbers.
That's right. Their annual report is full of interesting data. So where do you want to start?
Well, we talked about their 5% year-on-year revenue growth. But I'm curious about the details behind that number. What's happening at the segment level?
Great question. It's not just about the total revenue, it's about understanding where that growth is coming from. So their report breaks down their performance across their various businesses.
So let's talk segments: jewelry, watches, and...
Even Cerise, they've really expanded their portfolio.
Right. So where are they seeing the most success?
Well, as we discussed, their jewelry segment, with Tanishq as the flagship, is still their biggest revenue generator. But they are facing some challenges with those fluctuating gold prices.
Yeah, those price swings can really make a dent in profits.
Absolutely. But Titan isn't just sitting back and taking it. They're proactively investing in consumer promotions to stimulate growth, especially in the jewelry segment.
So they're trying to counter those market forces with some clever strategies. But how are they managing their margins with those fluctuating input costs? Gold and diamonds aren't exactly getting cheaper.
That's where their operational efficiency comes into play. Despite those challenges, they've maintained a pretty healthy EBIT margin of 11.7%.
That means they're keeping costs under control and squeezing every bit of profit out of each rupee.
Exactly. It shows that they're being smart about managing their input costs and running their operations efficiently.
That EBIT margin is definitely impressive. But what about their net profit margins? That's really the bottom line, isn't it? After all the expenses are factored in?
You're right. Net profit is the ultimate measure of profitability. While the report doesn't explicitly state the net profit margins, we can kind of infer that they're likely pretty healthy based on their strong EBIT performance.
Okay, that makes sense. But to really get the complete picture, we'd probably need to delve into their financial statements in more detail.
Agreed. A deeper dive into those statements would give us a more nuanced understanding of their profitability.
So their growth isn't just about the numbers, right? It's also about their ambitious expansion strategy. They've been opening a lot of new stores across the country.
You're absolutely right. Their retail expansion is a key driver of their revenue growth. And they're not just focusing on their core segments like jewelry and watches, but also on emerging segments like Cerise with their Tenera brand.
And they're expanding into those smaller towns too. What do they call it? Farad, right?
Exactly. That's a huge untapped market with a growing middle class and rising aspirations.
So they're smart to target those areas.
They're not just expanding for the sake of it. They're strategically choosing locations with high growth potential. In many cases, they're the first major lifestyle brand to establish a presence in those towns.
That's a bold move, but it seems to be paying off. But with all that expansion, managing inventory becomes a challenge, especially when you're dealing with gold prices that are so unpredictable. How are they handling the working capital tied up in their inventory?
It's a valid concern. The report actually gives us some insight into that. They talk about optimizing efficiency in inventory management and cash flow. They mention selling excess bullion when needed to manage their cash flow effectively.
So they're not just stockpiling gold and hoping for the best. They're actively managing their inventory levels based on demand and market conditions.
Exactly. They're being proactive and strategic about it, which is essential in a market like this. Now, thinking about their future, what do you think about their growth plans?
They hinted at some pretty ambitious plans in their annual report. Where do they see themselves going?
They're not slowing down anytime soon. Their vision is to really cement their position as the dominant force in the Indian lifestyle market.
So how are they planning to achieve that? What's their strategy?
Well, first and foremost, they're continuing their aggressive retail expansion, especially in those high-growth segments. They're also doubling down on product innovation.
Always developing exciting new products to keep consumers engaged.
That's the key. They want to be both accessible and aspirational. And let's not forget about their commitment to sustainability.
Right. That's a major part of their brand identity. It's not just a marketing tactic for them. It's woven into everything they do.
Absolutely. Now, going back to consumer demand, the report suggests that Indian consumers are becoming more and more discerning in their choices.
So they're not just buying any product anymore. They want quality, style, and value for their money.
Precisely. And Titan is adapting to that shift. They're investing in design, innovation, and creating those really engaging customer experiences.
So they're not just reacting to changes in the market. They're proactively shaping those changes.
Exactly. That's what sets them apart. They're anticipating and responding to market shifts, which is crucial for long-term success. But to really get into the nitty-gritty of their financial strength, I think we need to take a closer look at some of the specific data revealed in their annual report.
Okay, I'm ready to dissect those numbers. Let's dive in. Okay, so we're finally ready to put on our financial analyst hats and really get into the numbers.
Time for some number crunching.
Exactly. We've talked about their overall growth, but I'm really interested in seeing how each segment is performing.
Let's break it down. Their annual report does a good job of separating out each business.
Perfect. So their total revenue was a whopping 51,084 crore. That's a 5% jump from last year. But we know growth wasn't equal across all segments.
Right. Some areas really outperformed others.
Like their watches and wearables. That segment had a phenomenal year.
It did, thanks in large part to Fast Track. Their smartwatch sales surged a massive 56%.
Wow, 56%. That's incredible. They've clearly tapped into a real demand for smartwatches. It makes sense, though. Indians are becoming more and more tech-savvy.
Absolutely. Now, their jewelry division, with Tanishq still leading the way, remains their biggest revenue generator.
But they did face some headwinds because of those volatile gold prices. How did that affect their bottom line?
Well, they reported a healthy EBIT margin of 11.7%, which means they're managing their costs pretty effectively.
So even with fluctuating gold and diamond prices, they're staying profitable.
Exactly. Maintaining that level of profitability in such an unpredictable market is no small feat.
It really speaks to their operational efficiency. Their annual report also highlighted their capital structure. They've made some significant investments in subsidiaries and associates.
Right, like their increased stake in Carrot Lane, for example.
Yeah, they bought an additional 27.56%, bringing their total ownership to almost 100%.
That's a pretty big deal. It shows they're serious about strengthening their online presence in the jewelry market, which makes sense. E-commerce is booming in India.
Consumers are definitely getting more comfortable shopping online, even for high-value items like jewelry. Speaking of finances, how's their cash flow looking? Can they actually fund all these ambitious growth plans?
They seem to be in a good position. Their annual report highlighted a strong cash flow from operations.
So they're generating enough cash to fuel their expansion, invest in new initiatives, and even reward their shareholders.
That's right. They've even outlined a clear dividend distribution policy. They explain exactly what factors they consider when deciding how much to pay out.
That kind of transparency is always good to see. It builds trust with investors.
Absolutely. It shows they're committed to creating value for their shareholders. But beyond the pure financial numbers, I was really impressed with their commitment to sustainability. And they're not just talking about it, they're actually reporting on their environmental impact.
It's more than just lip service. They're actually measuring and reporting their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions.
Exactly. That level of transparency is pretty rare. It really shows they're serious about reducing their carbon footprint. Sustainability isn't just a buzzword for them, it's built into their entire business strategy.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Impressive financial performance, a smart growth strategy, a real commitment to sustainability. What's the big takeaway? What makes Titan so successful?
I think it boils down to a few key things. They're ambitious, they're innovative, and they have a deep understanding of the Indian consumer.
They've not just survived some pretty turbulent economic times, they've thrived, they've embraced the digital revolution, and they're staying ahead of the curve when it comes to consumer trends, all while upholding ethical practices and a commitment to sustainability. It's an inspiring story.
I agree. It really shows that you can be both profitable and responsible, but their success also raises some interesting questions about the future.
Like why?
Well, they're expanding into new territory, like Saris with Tenera. Will they be able to replicate their success in these new ventures?
That's the big question. Only time will tell how things play out. But based on their track record, I'd say they're in a good position. They're adaptable, strategic, and they know how to connect with their customers.
They've certainly proven that. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into Titan Company.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. We looked at their impressive growth across so many different segments, their smart financial management, their commitment to sustainability, and their ambitious plans for the future. It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. If anyone wants to learn more, I highly recommend checking out their full annual report. It's packed with valuable insights.
Great idea. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Titan Company. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.